Hello again, everybody. We've got loads of people joining us this evening from hopefully lots of places around the world. So it's for us it's good evening, and for other people it's good morning or good afternoon. Not sure if there's anyone who's it's during the night, but if that's the case, good night too. Um, so this webinar today is going to be about generally about pre-departure preparations for going on the Camino. We've a good few slides to go through. And as Martha said, if you have questions, we'll try to get to most of them at the end of the webinar. If we don't get your question, you can always send the question to info@CaminoWays.com and we will get back to you probably tomorrow. So no problem for that. But yeah, we have a lot of people with us tonight. If you could just put yourselves on mute and as well, please, and then as Martha said, just type in any questions you have. So we're going to get going. As I just said, this is a Camino Ways presentation for April, which is a pre-departure briefing, and we'll hopefully get to some questions and after questions and answers afterwards. So if you want to go on to the agenda there quickly, Martha. I'm not going to go through the whole agenda because we'll be going through that on each slide. But generally, as you can see, we've quite a bit to get through this evening, so we'll get right into it. So keep going, Martha, please. So very briefly, we're at Camino Ways. What we do is, if you don't know us, have met us before or booked with us, we offer walking and cycling, self-guided and guided tours on the Camino de Santiago and the Via Francigena in Italy. Within our package, we offer accommodation. And what people love us for is luggage transfer. So we pick up your luggage bag and bring to the next hotel on each walking or cycling day. And then we can add in extras like airport transfers and anything else that you may need that is available on the Camino. We also offer guided tours on selected locations and dates. So if you go onto our website, CaminoWays.com, and just pick guided tours, you'll see all the locations and dates. And we have a little surprise for you at the end of the webinar for one of our guided tours. And we work with groups as well. And then while you're on tour, we offer lots of assistance. We have an online tour pack, which gives you all the information and mapping you need to get through the tour. And of course, we have our live 24-hour assistance number you can call if you have any issues while you're en route. All right, next slide, please. So I think probably if you're here, you've done a bit of research and you know where the Camino is and what it does. But essentially, here are most of the routes of the Camino and all the routes that we work on. The most popular being the Camino Francés, coming from France and Championnet de Port, one day into walking into Spain and then cutting all the way across northern central Spain into Santiago de Compostela. And then we have the Portuguese route coming up from Lisbon and in Porto is probably the most popular starting point, walking back into Santiago on three routes, either the central way, which would be the more traditional way, the coastal way, which is becoming extremely popular. And there's another variant called the spiritual way, which kind of spends a little bit more time on the coasts, and there's a little boat trip involved as well. The Camino del Norte, or the Camino Norte, or North Coast, is fantastic as well. And then we have the short Camino Inglés, and then also you can walk from Santiago out to Finisterre. We also do the Via Francigena in Italy, which is essentially the Camino to Rome, and we do it from Lucca through Tuscany to Siena and then down into Rome. And that is a stunning, fantastic route. The minute you mention Tuscany, people definitely were interested in that. Okay, next slide, please. So really, I mean, the Camino is a big undertaking. Lots of people are know about the Camino. They've heard about the Camino, or some friends or family have done the Camino. They've come back and talked about it so much that you now want to do the Camino. And so, whether you've done it before or this is your first time, hopefully this will give you some insight into how to prepare yourself and what to do prior to going in your Camino. Like with all journeys, if anyone of you ever done what we call slow travel through a country, let's say as a break or an experience, whether that's on foot, on bike, or on horse, you do fall into this nature of a journey. It's a slow pace through a country. You get to know the culture, the area, the agriculture, the feeling of it very, very quickly. And that also brings you back into yourself as well. And I think that's where a lot of people find their spiritualness while walking a route, or whether it's a pilgrim route or a mountain trail or anything really. But I think the Camino really lends itself to that because it is a spiritual experience. It is a pilgrim route, whether you're religious or not, and that is there. But any journey you will find yourself kind of slipping into yourself and having a good old think about where you've come from, where you are now, and where you're going. And that's just on the Camino. That's generally about life. So I think with that, you should definitely expect some highs and lows, and that can be, you know, obviously the physicality of the Camino, the emotional part, which I find always kind of happens at the end when you finish the journey. Everybody becomes very over emotional because you hold that back until you're actually finished, and it's when you finish you realize what you've done. And sometimes also, if you coming from a couple of very rural days into a big city, you suddenly realize that the speed and the noise of the city, which you've forgotten about very quickly, it hits you physically. And then there's also the challenges that can be like you can expect on the Camino in any route really, and that's things like the weather can come at you, and you can be walking in fantastic weather one day and fairly brutal weather the next day, and then back to fantastic weather. You should always be prepared for that, whether that's mentally and with your gear as well. And what's the most common talked about theme on the Camino when it comes to walking the Camino? One of the most common things talked about is your feet, because they are the things that get you from A to B. And then blisters has always got a great there's always great chat at lunchtime with many of the Camino walkers about how your feet are doing, how many blisters you have, and and how much has this been a struggle for that. And there's lots of information and treatments on how to, first of all, protect yourself from blisters, and secondly, how to treat them if you do get them. Um, yeah, as it says there, Buen Camino is the only response you need, and Buen Camino is good Camino. Camino means way, good way. And you hear a lot of people as you pass people, as people pass you, as you meet people for lunch, coffee, they all say Buen Camino as you part from each other, as you walk past each other. And there's always this great saying as well that the Camino always provides. And I think a good example of that is I always say to people when they're going on the Camino, even with the amount of mapping apps, whatever you have to find your way, you will always get lost at some point. And essentially, I advise that if you think you're lost, you probably are. But many of the locals, the farmers, the local people on the Camino kind of, they will approach you, and whether they speak English or not, they will kind of point in the direction you should be going. They might say a few words in Spanish, and I've even heard stories of people being put in cars and driven back to the route. So the Camino provides in many ways, and if you're struggling on one day and you need something that's not there, it seems to present itself around the next corner. So it has a fantastic ability to do that. And next slide, please. So, I mean, obviously, this is not something you take for granted. It's something that you can just get up and go and do. The average walking day of a Camino is around 20 kilometers. Some days are longer, some days are shorter, and that's purely based on the geography of the area. So prepping for a Camino is very important, ensuring that you do have the ability and fitness and strength to do it. We do have a fitness guide on our website. It's downloadable as a ebook, and it just gives you basic instructions or not instructions, guidelines of what a fitness regime that you could do. But like, I mean, very briefly, everybody, can get out and hike 15, 20 kilometers on a day. Pretty much anyone can do that in one day. You might feel it the second or third day afterwards. But the challenge of the Camino is you have to do it for multiple days, whether you're going for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or even 5 weeks. So really what you need to do when you're training is build yourself up. So if you're starting from scratch, is getting out there doing a couple of kilometers, always do a little bit more each day, whether it's a half a kilometer or a mile, depending where you're from. Always add to that, 5 kilometers, the next day do six, the next day do seven. So build that up, and also build up I suppose, a little bit of weight that you're carrying. So you just throw in a liter bottle of water in your little backpack, or next day throw in 2 liters, and that will really help with preparing yourself for the load you have to carry. With us, obviously, we carry your luggage, so you just need to bring your day pack, but it's still heavy on your back. But if you're doing it self-supported, you're going to be carrying, you know, quite a bit more. So you definitely need to prepare for that. Definitely with gear, a lot of people talk about boots and shoes. I think definitely you need to wear the footwear that you're going to be wearing on the Camino to, I suppose, train that in as well. And but yeah, get a Camino fitness guide, follow that. It's very similar, really, for training for any kind of physical activity that you're going to do, whether it's a marathon, half marathon, 5K run, or something like a Camino. It is building up that daily exercise you do. And another important note is, you have to do this every day when you go in the Camino. So try and find some time and space to do some consecutive days hiking, i.e., the weekend. Maybe do try and do two or 3 days in a row, and you'll know where you're at then. Okay, next slide, please. So again, packing is another thing that you need to think about, and you need to be a little bit brutal with your packing. I've done many treks over the years in many places, and I used to be a guide, and I brought many people to many city places and extreme places. And and if it was something that we need to really think about, I actually met them before we left and made sure that that what we needed in their case was what we needed and not what we needed. And generally, 3/4 of the stuff that people would have packed would be thrown out. And it's the same. I am terrible with packing. I really have to think about what I need and what I don't need, and then I have to think again, and then I have to think again. And my I suppose what I started with is definitely down by 2/3 to what I actually bring, because I find when you travel, you always leave a certain amount of gear that's never touched. So really, with the kind of technical gear you have today, technical hiking gear, which is fantastic, you can wear it, wash it, it'll dry in an hour, anywhere really. You don't need too much of that. And in the evening, you just need maybe one or two kind of comfortable, nice bits of clothing that you can wear when you're having your dinner or when you're relaxing after your day's walk. And I think that's really, clothing wise, what you need. Nice pair of comfortable shoes, light shoes you can wear in the evening. Obviously, you're going to have your hiking shoes for the daytime. That's important as well. Also, you got to think about possible rain. So light rain gear or ponchos. You're never going to be cold walking the Camino because it's always kind of warm to temperate temperatures in northern Spain. It's not like southern Spain; it's northern Spain, and so light rain gear as well is important. So yeah, and less than any personal items you obviously need. There's always, you'll always be walking into a town every evening, and some of them are fairly large. And if you are missing something, it is very achievable to buy that when you're at the location. So if there is something you're missing, don't worry, you could probably stock up when you're out there. Again, with us, you have a huge advantage because we are counting your luggage, but we do have a restriction of 20 kgs for bag weight. So you need to be careful that you don't go beyond that as well. And yeah, it's always important to be a little bit brutal with your packing. Next slide, please. So yeah, a typical day in the Camino, and I suppose this is what people wonder and ask about a lot. And the first and most important thing, like each day logistically, is pretty much the same. So especially on your first day, when you arrive, you'll probably overnight before you start your walk. And people get quite anxious. They're in a different country. They don't know the lingo, not sure of the location. They don't know where the start of the Camino is. And it's all a bit overwhelming. So I always say to people, take a bit of a deep breath, relax. The Camino delivers, as I said earlier. You have your map. Just get your day pack sorted out and your backpack sorted out if you're going self-supported, and you have your luggage that's going to be transferred ready to go. I think getting up anywhere around kind of 6, 7 a.m. is a good time to kind of wake up and kind of go down, have your breakfast. Don't worry about everything that's going on around you. With us, we ask that you have your luggage for transfer in the lobby by 8 o'clock. Again, you don't need to check out at that time. You can go back to your room with your day pack and get yourself prepared, then come down, check out, and just set off on the Camino. Off you go. Each day, you're probably going to be walking 2.5, 3 hours in the morning, same in the afternoon. I think for each walking day, I always say for each hour you walk, take a 10, 15-minute break and take a long lunch break. Take that hour for lunch, relax, put your feet up, have a decent bit of food, lots of coffee shops and little restaurants along the route to stop in at very convenient places. They know where to put them on the Camino. So you probably stop around 10 a.m. for a bit of a coffee, there's lots of little places to stop and look and experience as well. And then anywhere between 12 and 2 you can have your lunch. You should be finishing your Camino anywhere between kind of, I think 3 is a short day, 4 or 5 will be normal, 6, 7 will be a long tough day. So depending on your kilometers in that day, that's kind of where you're finishing. Relax, prep your gear, go down, have your dinner, rest. um, as an Irishman, and we have to be careful not to get too excited at the bar, and then get you ready for the next day. Um, a lot of people hear about people getting up really early, stupid o'clock, 4 or 5 a.m., and rushing out the door to get on the Camino. And that's mainly if you're going self-supported and you're booking into hostels or albergues. And the reason people get up early and do this is because there's unfortunately a lot of competition for rooms, and it's very difficult to actually pre-book the hostels. So people get up early, get to the next town just to get a bed. And I think that takes a lot away. Obviously, with us, everything is pre-arranged with your hotel, so you don't need to pressurize yourself on that level. Okay, thank you, Martha. Let's go next one. So the accommodation, well, with us and all the companies like us, we offer accommodation in hotels. Therefore, you're in a private ensuite room, and everything a hotel has to offer. The hotel standards will vary because you'll be walking through villages, towns, small towns, big towns, cities. So a typical village hotel could be very rustic, very old, family run, a little bit creaky here and there, but fantastic and lovely atmosphere. Then the towns and larger towns, you're going to get a little bit more, I suppose, town type hotels, but then the cities, you're going to have a city type. We can offer a standard accommodation, which is a general kind of up to 3 star. We do have superior hotels in selected areas where there are superior hotels available. That could be 4 star or 5 star or power doors. And power doors are amazing. They're converted monasteries and castles in Spain and Portugal. They're stunning, beautiful places to stay in, and but they're not available everywhere. And there's also availability is also an issue. And we also have country cottages, which by definition are in the country and can be situated away from the route. And if that is the case, and you have booked with us, we do organise a transfer to and from that country cottage, and that's all detailed in your trip notes when you get them. Um, and then if you're going self-supported, you can pick and choose where you want to stay, when you want to stay, how far you walk, how far you don't walk, whether you're staying in a hostel or hotel. As I said, it's very difficult to pre-book hostels, so it can be challenging and fun. But generally in hostels, you share rooms with lots of other people doing the Camino. So always advise earplugs and bringing your own things like a silk liner, which is not a sleeping bag, but it's like a sleeping bag, but it's made of silk, so it doesn't get too warm. And the hostel will usually give you blankets and things like that. All right, next slide, please. So yeah, the luggage transfer is just a bit of a note about that. So with luggage transfers, obviously you just need a day pack, probably about 10 liters, a bit of water, an extra fleece, maybe a warm hat, because even when it's warm and you're walking, when you stop, well, it's usually a bit cold in the morning. And then when you stop for lunch, if you're sitting in the shade, you can actually chill down very quickly because you've been walking. And when you stop your exercise, your body cools down. So maybe a fleece is always good to put on, light raincoat, as I said, or poncho, and any personal items you may need. That's generally what you would put in your day pack. And then you have the luxury of just dropping your main luggage into the lobby. We'll pick it up and you won't even see that. You walk out, your luggage may still be there. And then hopefully when you get to your next hotel, your luggage will be sitting there. And we've been doing this for 15 years. I have to say the luggage transfer system works extremely well. I'm not saying we're perfect, and that's why we have things like the assistance phone, just in case there is an issue. But it works, 99.9% of the time. It's brilliant, and we're very proud of that service. We do have weight limits, and that's all described in your trip notes. Our team will put tags on the bags. We just ask that you put your name and an address on the bag so we know it's yours. And the first morning, our team will put the tags on the bag so it remain there for the rest of the tour. Okay, thank you. Food and water. Yeah. So generally, if you book with us, or you as an individual can also pick what's known as the pilgrim menu, the menu of the pilgrim, and that's anywhere between kind of €12. It can be more than 15. kind of building up to 20, 25 in some places, but generally you get three courses. I know it has listed wine there, but wine, that's kind of up to the hotel. With us, wine is not included, but sometimes the hotel will put a local bottle of wine on the table. So never expect it. If it's there, it's a gift. And the food is very local, and you've got to expect that in Spain, specifically in northern Spain. They've got I suppose, a fantastic reputation for food, specifically up around Santander, San Sebastian, Bilbao on the northern way, Santiago itself and Galicia. It's very traditional. A lot of it is straight out of the backyard, and that includes the meat. And literally, they will put you kind of it's meat and potatoes, fish and potatoes. If you're vegetarian, I would do a bit of research first because there are definitely vegetarian restaurants. There's an amazing app called Happy Cow, and that app will give you kind of vegan and vegetarian restaurants that are in any part of the world. And it's great if you're a vegetarian or vegan because it gives you the location where you can go and eat. I think if you do have dietary requirements, um, and if you're booking with us and there's dinner, sometimes we advise not to book dinner with us so you can eat a la carte, so you can pick and choose where you eat either in the hotel you're staying in or one of the many restaurants or cafes that will be in the towns that you are staying in. So there's lots of options really. Generally, what we do is we book dinner in all locations except the large cities because in cities, hotel food, always a bit questionable, but it's much better to go out and experience what's available in the local restaurants. So that's quite fun as well. Breakfast in Spain is very light, continental breakfast. You get your teas, coffees. May get some cereals, toast, bit of fruit, breads, croissants, kind of cold meats as well. So if you want a bit of good healthy breakfast like porridge, bring some porridge. We're transporting your luggage so you can put it in your bag, and just give it to the kitchen and ask them to heat it up. They will facilitate that for you. Great to carry a few snacks as well, like energy bars, fruit bars, chocolate. Just have that to nibble on as you go. But there are many restaurants and cafes en route as well that you can stop in. Always good to have about a liter of water in your backpack, and water is drinkable out of the taps and fountains in Spain. There's lots of mountain regions there where the water comes straight out of in spring, so it's really fantastic. So you can just fill from the taps, no problem whatsoever. There's lots of specialities around the Caminos in specific areas. San Sebastian is known specifically for its food. It's got the highest proportion of Michelin star restaurants in Europe than anywhere else, and it's all very very affordable. So if you're on the Northern Way, definitely a place to maybe have an extra overnight. And I love the food in Santiago as well and around. So it's fantastic. But yeah, if you're a foodie, you'll enjoy it. Next slide, please. So money, phones, connectivity. Yeah, it's a question we get asked a lot, and very briefly, you know, money wise, I always say it's good to carry maybe 50 euros cash on your person just in case, but pretty much everywhere takes cards. So you can bring your credit card or debit card, and it's going to be usable in 99.9% of cases. But not bad to have 50 euros of cash on your person just in case you may need to get a taxi, or there may be something you need to pay in cash. You may not use it, but it's good to have. There are ATMs around the place, but generally more in the larger towns and cities, obviously. For phones, you're in Spain. Yeah, so you've got complete coverage. There's many different options for people traveling from different countries to different countries now. eSIMs are probably becoming the most popular use, so you can download an eSIM. It's essentially it's a usable SIM card that is not physical. You can download an app and you can get your eSIM on an app, and then you can use the local provider when you're in whatever country you're in, Spain in this, or Italy or Portugal. So eSIMs are very good. Or just make sure that with your provider that you're not being charged the earth for use of your phone when you're overseas. With us, you get a downloadable map which is based on Google Maps, and there's instructions on your tour pack on how to do that, whether it's on an Android or iPhone. It also has instructions of how to download that specific location of Google Maps, so you're not using data when you're using the map, and I think that's very important. And then it pinpoints you on the route, and then you can follow that while you're following the route. But the Camino is very well marked, signposted, and the trail is very distinctive, and there's lots of other people walking. But as I said earlier, there will always be a point where you may get lost, stop, turn around, go back to where you started. Obviously, you need a European 2-pin plug as well. So when you're bringing your devices and plugs, make sure you have a European 2-pin adapter. And and as I always do, don't forget it in the hotel. Just coach yourself when you're unplugging your chargers to unplug the adapters as well, because I am consistently leaving adapters in hotels and places that I leave, and it's very frustrating. Next slide, please. So I think it's very important to understand travel insurance. We don't. We're a tour operator. We're specialists providing Camino tours. People ask us, "Can we get travel insurance from you as well?" We're not an insurance provider. Insurance is a very specific thing, and you should buy the travel insurance from a travel insurance provider, generally from your local jurisdiction or one that you've used before. And travel insurance, when you are booking your tour or any overseas travel, the day you book that tour, even if it's in 12 months or 18 months or 6 months or whatever, that is when the same day you buy your travel insurance. And that travel insurance should cover you for any eventuality that prevents you from travel. Yeah, I know that travel insurance companies are being a bit clever at the moment, and they're saying, well, we don't cover war or anything like that. And obviously, there's the world is in a turbulent place at the moment, but we're not experiencing any issues with people traveling to Spain. There is no issues in Spain. Middle East is as far away as the US is. So hopefully things are settling down again, and we won't see this continuing on. But travel insurance, I think, is very essential. You can get the EHIC card for EU residents, but that only gives you a right to enter a hospital as a public patient. So I kind of say avoid that. With travel insurance, you will get the best of care. Always call if something happens while you're on the Camino, whether it's a physical injury or you're sick, or if you need assistance, you need an ambulance. Call the local emergency services. They are the best people placed to help you, and then make sure you have your travel insurance details to hand. Um, that it's the first world. Everywhere we offer our routes is first world, so there's many fantastic hospitals very close to where the Camino is. So you don't have to worry about that. As on a safety level, I've been in the industry for 25 years. I've walked pretty much most of the world, or and other ways as well, other methods. And I have to say, I think the Camino is one of the safest long distance or any route I've ever seen. I've been working on the Camino for 15 years, and I'm not saying it's perfect. I have seen some incidences, and you can read about some of them. But in general, I think it's extremely safe, even for solo travelers and even for females. Why? Because there's always other Camino walkers there, and the locals really want the Camino to be safe and secure, and therefore you're in a sense protected on that level. That's not to say you could run into problems. And I always say, please be aware of your surroundings, what is going on around you, and who is around you. Especially in the cities, you just need to be a little bit more aware. But in general, yeah, it's a fantastic route for safe. Um, Cyclists. So there's a little note here for cyclists. So you are sharing the route with cyclists, and if you're cyclists yourself, so if you're sharing a route with cyclists, just be aware that cyclists could be coming behind you, especially when you're walking downhill, because they could be coming at speed and have a bit of an issue stopping. If you are a cyclist, it's kind of the ethos on the Camino is to tell people ahead of you that you're on the way. So you hear a lot of bell ringing, or even Buen Camino, or alert. So just be wary that there are cyclists coming behind you. And the emergency number in Spain and Portugal and Europe essentially is 112. All right, next slide, please. I did say there was a lot in this, so we'll keep going. As I said, there is just about the cyclists coming at you. There is a bit of pilgrim etiquette, and you always greet fellow pilgrims, Buen Camino. They will greet you that way, so you have no choice to say it back. If you're staying in the albergues, it's good to be quiet, let other people sleep, because you have a lot of exhausted people. And so usually around 10 o'clock, just off the bed, go to sleep, put your earplugs in. Hopefully nobody snores too much. You could be sharing a room with 6 people or 60 people in some places. So it can be interesting. As I mentioned, pack the night before to more morning rustle. So I'm a little bit. I suppose I'm always organized like that. I always get myself together before I go to bed, and yeah, I suppose when you have lots of people walking a route, you will have rubbish, and that's a very unfortunate thing. We've actually sponsored people, kind of put money towards helping keep the Camino clean. But there's always a little bit of rubbish around. It's not endemic. It's not too bad, but it's something you will see. And the locals are very, I suppose, proactive in trying to keep the Camino as clean as possible. But please help them by not leaving your rubbish behind. It's very simple. You wouldn't do it in your house or your friend's house, so why do it on the Camino? The locals love the Camino. They love pilgrims. It's been a fantastic uplift for them in the tourism sense. There's a lot in the industry. We talk about the tourist dollar, and for example, if you go on a cruise, it's usually fully paid for, and you go visit a town or city. You spend very little in that town or city. The Camino is exactly the opposite. When you're there, you'll spend money with the local restaurants, cafes, and the shops. You buy your pilgrim passport, which we encourage with the local providers. And so there's a lot of your tourist dollar being left behind on the Camino, and they understand that and they love that. It's also a fantastic mode of travel. So, for sustainability, you're using yourself to get from A to B, and that's really important as well. And but yeah, I mean, yeah, some of the places, especially close to Santiago, you have your passport. You need to stamp that each morning and evening just to prove that you've started where you start and finish where you finish. But and it does get it can get a little bit busy at times, but I've never really experienced that, so I don't think it's really an issue. Mostly in the pilgrim office in Santiago when you get your certificate, that can get busy, understandably. The Compostela, that brings us nicely into this. So as I said, for the passport, we don't provide it with our packages because we do like to support the local providers and the local St. James's societies and the Camino itself. And all the money it's usually around €2 to €5 depending where you buy it, and some of that money does go back into the Camino, into the community and the Camino. So with the passport, you have to get your stamps in the morning as you leave, in the evening as you arrive, and your hotels or accommodation will have them. But there are many, many, many places to get your stamps, whether it's in the churches, and the cafes, and the post office, and the butcher. They're pretty much everywhere will have a stamp. There's even some people who will sit on the side of the road with one they've carved themselves, and you give them a little donation, and they'll stamp the passport for you. So it becomes a little bit addictive, and many people need many passports because they get many stamps every day, and it's a lot of fun. All the churches you go into as well, which there are many old churches along the routes. There's always stamps for those as well, and yes, there's many homes across the world with many passports stamped. And then when you finish in Santiago, you present your passport to the pilgrim in the pilgrim office, which is situated very close to the main square, and they'll ask you if you want a religious cert or just a normal cert, and you give them, I think, €5 or maybe a bit more, and they'll give you the cert as well. To get the cert, you need to walk at least 100 kilometers on the Camino, and or at least 200 kilometers by bike anywhere. And that's a new thing. Actually, it used to be into Santiago de Compostela, but now you can do it anywhere on the Camino, and they'll give you the cert. Um, all right, next one, please. So destinations only work if you can arrive and depart from them, and hopefully, you've already arranged your flights. So there's many places, you know, that service the Camino, whether it's Biarritz for the start of the French way, Bilbao Santander for the northern way, Santiago de Compostela for any of the walks kind of in around 200 kilometers of Santiago, Porto, Lisbon. Madrid is not far from the Camino, so there's many, many, many airports that you can arrive into. You may need to change if you're coming from transatlantic to a more local airport as well. That's no problem. You can book through to there. And then obviously there's public transport that can get you from A to B, B to C. There's a fantastic website called Rome to Rio. That's ROME, the number two, Rio.com. And you can put your start point and end point for any part of the world. And it's going to give you details of how to get from A to B, all the public transport, everything, and it's accurate and it's correct and it's fantastic. So I always encourage people to use that if they're struggling of maybe arriving in Madrid and they need to get to Logroño or they need to get to Pamplona or to Burgos or Santiago, Rome to Rio. I'm going from Madrid airport or Madrid train station. How do I get to Santiago train station? It's going to tell you and give you point by point information. That's really good. And we have on our website we have links and blogs on airports, transport, everything. We have 800 pages of information on our website. Just go in, use the search a magnifying glass on the top right, ask it a question. It's going to give you the blog and hopefully the answer. Okay, next slide, please. So we've kind of come to the end. We hope we get to a few questions now. We'll hopefully, if we can do about 20 questions, that'd be great. But there's a huge amount of people here this evening, so I'm sure we have a huge amount of questions. Again, if we don't get to answer your specific question, please email us at info@CaminoWays.com and we'll reply to you hopefully tomorrow. We have a little surprise if you go back to the discount. So we have a little surprise. So our guided tour on St. James's Day, July the 18th, we're offering a 12% discount if you book before the end of the month. So that's the discount code. So if you're booking, it's guided at St. James. Our guided tours are fantastic. As I said, they're on specific routes and dates. And this is one is specifically special because it's during the St. James's Day celebration. So there's lots of partying in the square in Santiago and traditional Spanish parades and fireworks, and it's outstanding. And again, whether you're religious or not, you can't but get involved in it. And then our tours are generally 16 to 18 people, all English speaking mostly, and we have local guides who obviously speak English as well, but they're very local and they're very educated on the Camino, the history, the routes, everything really. So it's a great thing. So guided St. James, and if you're struggling with that, again, email info@CaminoWays.com. And that's specifically for everyone who's on this webinar tonight, not for anyone else. Okay, thank you very much. So I think we can get to the questions and answers. So Martha's going to pop in and ask me the question, and hopefully I can give you the answer.
Sure, thank you, Jeremy. So let's start it. Do you recommend walking poles for the Camino, and can we bring them on the plane?
Yes, so I definitely recommend walking poles because they take about 30% of pressure off your upper body when you're walking. And this, for anybody thinking about walking poles, and I'm sure there's a few other questions in there about them. Always train with walking poles before you go. So go buy them now. Go train with them because it does change your walking gait. And then, so what'll happen is you use obviously your arms a lot more. So just to get yourself kind of that fitness level and that your body getting used to your walking gait of using your arms and your upper body when you're walking. But they're fantastic specifically for carrying weight as well because they take a huge amount of pressure off that. The guys in the outdoor stores will show you how to use them. It's very simple. It's just the right height and pretty much step and putting pressure on them as well, because people kind of sometimes forget to put pressure on. And also for balance, some of the routes some parts of the routes, not many, they can get a little bit rocky, or you could be crossing a little stream or something. So it's great to have a walking pole to add the balance. Taking them on the plane, well, if you have collapsible poles, you can put them in your baggage. That's no problem. Some airlines will, some airlines won't. And some of them may say you have to put them through the sports part. So if you're checking in skis or bikes or something like that, you have to kind of check it in through a different area, and then you have to pick it up through a different area. So it can be a little bit frustrating. But if you have collapsible poles, you can put them in your luggage. So, there's no problem there. The other thing is you can buy poles out there. So when you start your Camino, you probably generally start in a major town or city. There's always a shop that's going to sell poles for in around 15, 20 euros. Around Santiago de Compostela, they do recycle poles as well. So a lot of people leave poles at the pilgrim office. There's a place you can leave poles, and they get recycled back through shops and things like that. So you can buy them for 10, 15 euros, and they're excellent poles. And it's a great system of, again, sustainability and reusability. So that's another option as well.
Thank you. Are there any maps you will recommend?
Yes, our map. So book with us, and we have an excellent map based on Google Maps. If you're not booking with us, obviously you don't get it. Otherwise, there are apps. I'm not a massive fan of maps on apps, to be frank. So I haven't really looked into it. But there's lots of trail maps that are on offer. As I said, the Camino is extremely well signposted and the trail is quite distinct. Um, but yes, I mean, I think a quick Google search and you'll find good apps for maps on the Camino.
Thank you. Is there a way to switch between coastal, central, and spiritual, starting my walk on May 2nd from Bayona?
If you're going self-supported, you can do whatever you want. If you're booking with someone like us, it's more difficult because they are different routes and different locations. So you would actually need to stop one route, leave it, get on to the next one and start again. So they don't link in a walking point of view. Other than the last 3 days into Santiago, they are the same routes. Okay, so they do come together coming into Santiago. But before that, it is very challenging to do that. I think, if you want the coastaway has two different routes. One is slightly inland and then it's coastal, and you kind of have a choice you say which you take. And again, it's very well signposted and laid out. So if you wanted to get a kind of an inland experience and coast experience, the Portuguese coastaway will do that for you. And yeah, and yeah, you definitely, because I've done it and it's pretty amazing.
Thank you so much. What's the weather like in early October?
Well, obviously you're coming towards the end of the season. When you leave August, the weather starts to cool down and deteriorate a little bit. But traditionally, the last kind of, I suppose, 4 or 5 years, we've seen our seasons extended, I suppose, due to global warming. And so I think October is a fantastic time to walk it. Obviously, it'll be a little bit cooler, probably around 20 to 25 degrees. And you may experience rain, or you probably will, but you've cooler walking weather, probably get some rain, great time to walk it. Um, and and for all weather questions, really, I mean, find a good weather app that gives mean temperatures per month, and then ask it, what are the mean month temperatures for northern Spain? Is going to give you some information. We can never cater for weather spikes, so obviously cyclones coming through, or you could arrive in a heat wave, or you could arrive in a storm. It's that's just a weather spike, which obviously we can't ever advise or cater for.
Any special route in order to see the eclipse?
To see the which
The
the
solar
eclipse.
eclipse,
Yes, absolutely. So the solar eclipse is happening, remind me, Martha,
12th of August.
12th of August. Thank you very much. And it's happening kind of, it's traveling through pretty much central Spain. I think the best points that have been highlighted to see the eclipse is around Burgos, Martha, Leon.
Yeah, it would be like Burgos, León, up to Ponferrada, and
Yeah.
Bilbao in the Camino del Norte.
Yeah, so yeah, and again, you can Google the eclipse, the affected areas, or not the affected area, the areas where you can see it best, and it shows you that, and we are experiencing a high level of bookings in those locations as well. So yeah, it's going to be amazing. I know in the US they had an eclipse a couple of years ago, and it was the best place to view it, and it traveled through the whole of central US, and yeah, everywhere was booked out along the route of the eclipse. So we're kind of seeing the same effect in Spain as well. So I think it's going to be amazing to be on the Camino during the eclipse. It's going to be very special. Yeah.
Thank you. Any vegetarian-friendly options available during the Camino?
Yes, I mean everyone's going to give you, as I think I said earlier, that the menu is quite fish and meat heavy because that's just what they do in that part of Spain. But they will always offer a vegetarian option. That app I mentioned is called Happy Cow. It's an excellent app. It'll geolocate you from where you are anywhere in the world where the vegetarian or vegan restaurants are. So it's a great app. If you are vegetarian, I sometimes suggest don't book dinner with us. We can remove it from your booking, and but then you're then responsible for your own meals in the evening.
Where do we get the special luggage tags to identify luggage for Camino Ways?
Yeah, it's printable from our website. Obviously, if you're printing something, it's not something that's going to be very sustainable for a long time. So what we ask is that you put your name and trip code on the bag on the first morning. Our team will put different tags that are more sustainable on your bag, and they will remain there for the rest of your trip. And that's how that works.
Thank you. What about tipping and the hotel and restaurants? What is the normal?
What? Sorry, what?
The tips in restaurants and hotel.
Yeah. So in Europe, tipping is generally not done. I know in the US and other occasions it's you tip everybody, but in Europe you don't. So you don't tip the hotel. tipping is if you feel that you've had a fantastic service and you want to. You can tip for meals. That's generally acceptable, but check your bill because some meals will have a service charge attached already on the bill. So don't you don't need to tip everybody, but if you feel you want to, absolutely do, and 10%.
I'm coming from a work trip and I will have my laptop. Is it okay to keep the laptop in the baggage that is going to be transferred?
Yeah, so anything like a laptop or anything you have that might be a little bit fragile, no problem at all. But like anything, just kind of make sure it's quite well wrapped up or in the center of the bag, so it's not on the outside of the bag, close to the outside of the bag, just in case. Again, I don't think I've ever heard of a laptop being broken, and many people do bring them, obviously. Um, but yeah, just put it in the center of the bag, it should be fine.
Do we need passports all the time with us?
So if you're talking about actual passports, that your passport that tells you who you are and where you're from, um, I would suggest it's not a bad thing to have on your person in a safe place, for many reasons. And yeah, I'd always have my passport on my person, and hopefully not lose it.
Thank you so much. Um, we are hearing about yet the petrol shortage are being publicized in Europe. Have you noted any serious issues with air transportation in Europe, or are there just, like no issue at all? We are a little concerned traveling from US.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to tell, to be honest with you. The media are really hyping it up, as they usually do, and but the airlines are hyping it down. So it's at this point, it's actually hard to know. We try to get information from the airlines, but they're keeping their their cards close. So it's really difficult to tell. I think things are settling down a little bit. Some airlines have stopped kind of, I suppose, unnecessary local flights, but in general, there doesn't seem to be an issue just yet. We are going to be coming into a busy season now in a couple of weeks. I think we'll know very quickly if there is. And unfortunately, if anyone is affected from this, it obviously is going to cause some problems. But we will work with you as much as we can to help you. We don't get like our tour starts when you arrive. We don't get involved with flights. We do lobby them, but we don't get involved with airlines. And yeah, we're hoping that this situation doesn't arrive. But we just have to wait and listen. I'm sorry I can't be any clearer than that, but literally that's all I know.
Thank you. Any tips for working with a child 8 years old? Is there a way to connect with other families to work together?
Yeah, connection. Well, first of all, connections on the Camino happen naturally, so it's very difficult to connect with people who are walking with families. The Camino again delivers, and you'll find that, and you'll always find, especially Spanish for Spanish, the Spanish, it's a kind of rite of passage to walk it as a family. I've seen 4 generations of the same family on the Camino. It's really amazing, but it's quite common. It's a lot less common for, let's say, us to bring our kids, but that's to say that they don't do it. I think anyone I've talked to who've brought their children on the Camino, they've absolutely loved it. There might have been a bit difficult to get them going at the start, but once they get into the routine, they've really enjoyed it. Um, and I think there's always a fear that the kid is going to kick back and not get up and go and do it, but they don't. They just get up and do it. And I think you just got to go for it, and hopefully it works out for you. So best of luck.
Thank you. How far in advance do I need to book with you?
Um, as far as far in advance as possible, really. When you are ready to book, come ask us for an itinerary, what you want to do. We'll send that to you. Work out if you're happy with everything. Work out your transport, your flights, and then once you have that all worked out, book. We have people booking in 2 years in advance. Not so much. I would suggest that our most common time frame is around 8 to 6 months. Um, and then you can still book right up to kind of 2 weeks before you arrive. But we prefer you don't do that because the Camino is quite complicated. That's why we exist. Once you book with us, we've got to get at least 6 hotels, maybe more. Lots of luggage transfer. So the logistics are very complicated. We have great systems to do that, and we work very hard to ensure that we can. But we can take bookings up to 2 weeks before you arrive, within reason. And but you know the longer the better. I think 8 to 6 months is a good time, but as well when you're ready. So talk to us. You know, we'll send you information, ask us questions, we'll reply to. You can have virtual meetings with myself or the team. So like this, we can do live chats and go through everything. So that's all within our contact page on our website. So yeah.
Sorry, we are traveling by e-bike rented from you, and we will be staying at the accommodations that you provide. Do those accommodation stores do they have a store set aside for the bikes and for battery charging?
Yeah, excellent question. Yeah, e-bikes are amazing, brilliant, love them. I think they've given us opportunities to extend our travel a lot more and into let's say an age where we might be not as fit as we used to. So yes, e-bikes. I definitely recommend if you haven't done so already to try an e-bike before you travel on the Camino because they are slightly different. There is power there, and just get you used to the different levels and how to use an e-bike. So find somewhere you can rent an e-bike, go for a day cycle, get used to them. On the Camino, when you're cycling the e-bike, again, be respectful of other people. You do go a bit faster. And then in the evening, yes, the hotels will tell you where to put the bike. The bikes come with locks, and you also can remove the battery and come bring it to your room to recharge. Make sure you recharge your battery every evening, or you'll be in trouble. And there's the instructions are all within the bike when you get it, and if you have questions when you're on the route, call our assistance phone.
Thank you. When will we get our travel documents?
Once when you pay in full or 30 days before you travel.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
How much, so, how much does it cost if your luggage is overweight?
Um, it's unfortunately it's something that's new this year, and frankly, I don't know. So I better go find that out. So apologies, I can't answer that question. I think for overweight luggage, try and get. I think it's probably better to split your bag in two, and then you can just add an extra bag onto your luggage transfer. Ask the team, and they'll let you know.
Thank you so much. We will be able to find toilets along the routes.
Well, you were walking through a country and countryside. So there's lots of little cafes and bars along the route. Probably within every 2 or 3 kilometers, you'll come across somewhere or a village. Please hold until then. Unfortunately, a lot of people go behind the hedges and things like that, and the locals do get annoyed with this. So yeah, try and wait until you come to a local village or town or one of the restaurants. They have no problem with you using their facilities.
Which route would you recommend for a first timer?
Probably any of the 100 kilometers into Santiago de Compostela, specifically the French way from Sarria to Santiago, or the Portuguese coast away from Tui to Santiago, from Vigo to Santiago, or the central way from Tui to Santiago. So yeah, that's where the most amount of people walk. That's where the best logistics are, best services. We can tailor the kilometers you walk per day. And it's generally a week long as well. So 5, 6 days walking, 7 nights. That's what most people, when they start, do. They do the end, and then they get a hooked, and they come back and they start doing lots of other things. So yeah,
Thank you. We will need a visa for crossing between Portugal and Spain. We are coming from the
no,
US.
there's no border. You just walk
Thank you.
through it. It's like, yeah, and because with Schengen, which is I suppose the treaty in Europe or EU, there are no borders in Europe. So there is in Switzerland because essentially they like to be Swiss. But if you're pretty much going from France, Spain, Portugal, there are no borders.
Perfect. A couple of questions more and we wrap up. What are the biggest mistakes people make on the trip?
Oh,
That's a good one.
walking outside of the pace you normally walk. So I always advise people to walk at the pace they usually walk at. Don't try and go too fast. Don't try and go too slow. Walk at your pace. Don't try and keep up with people, or don't go slow to let people keep up with you. Simply because if you walk aside your pace over an extended period of time, you may injure yourself. Your body's not used to it. So stay within your limits. Um, After that, packing, we talked about that. Be careful with your packing. Don't rush it. Take your time. Don't panic. Just take your time. Stop when you want to. If you see somewhere off the trail you want to go have a look, if there's no monastery or church, go look at it. Don't worry about it. You will always get to your other side. Um, yeah, don't be too excited in the evening with the lovely local wine. You can at the end, but maybe not in the middle. Don't be afraid to take rest days. You can add extra days onto your tour with us on your itinerary, no problem. We can advise you where the nice places are to stop. So if you feel you want to stop and rest for a day, do that. Don't worry. Um, yeah, don't get too involved with all the online information there is out there because it can give you the right or wrong information. But just be careful and kind of have a people kind of when they read things like that they kind of take in what they want to take in and ignore what they don't want to know about. But try and find your information from a correct source. I think that's very important.
Okay, and last one, how dog friendly is the Camino?
Yeah, no, it's not. And I get this asked a lot. And I'd love to take my dog everywhere I go. But the main issue on the Camino is that you are walking through a countryside, which is very agricultural. And what happens then is there are local sheepdogs and cow dogs that are not tied up and are loose, and they will protect their territory. And that is so your dog could possibly be attacked, and that's not something you want to happen. The accommodations, the hotels as well, and they don't really want dogs in the hotel rooms. They have no problem having a dog in a restaurant or anything like that, and they're very welcoming to dogs, but not in your bedrooms. And obviously with hostels, there's lots of other people in the hostel, so some people might be afraid of dogs, and that's another thing. People can be afraid of dogs or the pilgrims, so you got to be careful and cognizant about that. But for me, the main issue is that the amount of local sheepdogs, cow dogs that will protect their territory. You'll see that when you're en route. They will not be danger to you, but a strange dog there may be.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jeremy. We leave it here. If